This morning, flags outside the Ohio State House and around the country, for that matter, are lowered in honor of 19 children gone too soon because of a school shooting. Thank you for joining us this morning on Face the State. I'm Tracy Townsend. This week, Ohio lawmakers paused for a moment of silence to honor the victims from Uvalde, Texas. The names and ages of all of the victims out of that Texas school shooting were read. As lawmakers were assembled, Republicans agreed to allow statements from both sides only if they were not political. Here's what was read into the record about the mass shooting.
We cannot become complacent. We cannot forget. We cannot become desensitized to the fact that these murders and massacres and accidental shootings end up on our news feed each and every day. My colleagues, what we're doing is not working. What we are not doing is not working.
This is not just a Texas tragedy. This is a human tragedy. And this is something that today, if anything, should cause us to come together in agreement and say that there are times when we cannot explain, we cannot fathom. This is one of those moments when we have no answers.
Right now, there are 29 gun bills at the State House, divided among Republicans and Democrats. Democrats want to repeal Stand Your Ground. They want universal background checks, and they want to raise the age to buy a gun to 21. Republicans are pushing legislation that would allow teachers to carry guns in a school with 2 hours of training, and to also make sure no one needs insurance to own a firearm. 10 TV's Kevin Landers asked the Speaker of the House whether Ohio laws are strong enough to keep children safe.
Mr. Speaker, in the wake of the Texas shooting, there's a lot of attention on gun laws in our state. The question to you is, do you think Ohio has done enough to sufficiently protect the children in Ohio from a mass shooting? Are our laws strong enough? And do you think more needs to be done?
So we are constantly looking for ways in which we can strengthen the security of our school children. It's obviously a terrible tragedy. There's some indication maybe there was mental health issues that weren't caught in time. One of the things we have done in conjunction with the governor is to expand the mental health services that are available. In fact, we just had a bill today to help do that. We've added $11 million in the budget to be able to coordinate health care. We've passed legislation allowing strengthening the security in the school buildings. So we're constantly looking for ways in which we can do that. Now, this happened in Texas. It didn't happen in Ohio. I'm not sure, what their laws is, what their security setup is, but obviously safety of children is foremost in our mind.
Do you think the pink law should come back?
I think it's pretty early to know what exactly happened on that, but obviously looking at mental health issues and is something we should continue to do.
Earlier this week, we asked Governor DeWine's staff if he would comment about the school shooting. We were told he wasn't available. The night of the shooting, he tweeted in part, quote, "School safety and law enforcement intelligence gathering are key efforts within our Department of Public Safety, and we offer any assistance to Governor Abbott and Texas law enforcement that they may need." Here's what Democratic challenger Nan Whaley had to say in response to the shooting.
They need to look in the eyes of the victims and the family members who have died, like in Dayton, and will happen again in another community because they are too cowardly, too unwilling, and too extreme to actually make changes. I've had it. It's time for something better. Ohio is not an extreme state. We're just being run by extremists.
We talked with U.S. Senator Sherrod this week and asked him what he's doing right now to make sure another tragedy like this doesn't happen again.
I'm trying to reach across the aisle and pass something strong that will make a difference. We know that 80-90% of the American public says that an 18-year-old should not be able to go in right after his birthday, 18th birthday, not allowed to buy legal alcohol, can buy an assault weapon with no background checks, with no waiting periods, with no training, and buy that assault weapon that can kill, as we know, can kill a dozen people in a matter of seconds or a few minutes. That's just wrong. 80-90% of the American public thinks that. Unfortunately, the gun lobby has a stranglehold on the legislature in Columbus and on the governor and on far too many members of Congress. And so we keep trying, but a lot of us have supported these laws for a long time, yet the gun lobby is so powerful. So many of my Republican colleagues get huge campaign contributions from them, and they've been in bed with the gun lobby for their whole careers. And we've got to fix this. 80-90% of the public want us to.
And Republican Senator Rob Portman tweeted that his heart goes out to the families of the victims and the nation mourns for the innocent children, teachers, and all those affected by this senseless act of violence. After the shooting, the mayor of Bexley posted a letter on social media. It was, he says, a letter for anyone who has held back what he calls responsible gun laws, creating this constant circle of violence. The mayor sat down with 10 TV's Bryant Somerville.
He was hesitant to talk, not wanting to make this about him. But his words.
Tonight, I'm overcome with grief and anger.
In many ways.
How many times have we offered up impotent thoughts and prayers as our children are murdered in classrooms across America?
A reflection of us all. This is Bexley Mayor Ben Kessler, and Tuesday evening after hearing about the events in Uvalde, Texas.
I think back over the years, all the letters, resolutions that we have penned and signed.
He put his thoughts to Facebook.
I have so many words, and yet I have no words. And I sat in my office, frankly, I just sobbed. And as I was writing that, because it is such a tragic state of affairs in our country right now.
Powerful words from a powerless politician. Frustration, he calls it, watching scenes like this play out, while on a local level, he says his hands are tied to make changes, saying that has to come from the state level. But this, he says.
How long will we be relegated to the sidelines, helpless to do anything to protect our children?
Nothing to do with politics, everything to do with children.
Not only do I fear for my kids' safety, I fear for their mental health. To the rest of us, as fruitless as it seems, as hopeless as it has been, keep screaming for peace.
His post calls out a lack of action and the constant motion in what he calls the wrong direction from nationwide common sense gun laws.
It just feels so obvious that we need to start to regulate guns in a sensible, sane way.
An emotional plea to start this serious conversation, hoping these words will never again have to be said.
May this be the last post of its kind that needs to be written.
In Bexley,
hold your children close.
Bryant Somerville, 10 TV News.
Administrators in a Central Ohio school district understand the fear when it comes to having a school shooter inside their buildings. Back in 2017, 2 students were shot inside of West Liberty Salem High School. Olivia Eugenio spoke with the district superintendent about the changes he and that district have made following violence in their halls.
Outside of West Liberty Salem High School, there's a familiar sight. A sight that back in 2017 could have been for them.
In our situation, our student ended up having a full recovery, and it turned out to be kind of a happy ending to what was a tragic day, and they're never going to get that happy ending.
This video is from after a school shooting inside the high school.
Well, it happened on January 20th, 2017.
2 students were shot. One was point blank in the bathroom. Another was hit by a pellet from a shotgun. Do you still go back to that day?
Yeah, very much so. Today, you could just kind of feel a little bit of a weight on the staff here at school.
Since January of 2017, Superintendent Craig Hissong says they've made several changes, including not allowing students to hang out unsupervised in the building before school starts. The district's shooter was hiding in the bathroom before school. They looked into adding metal detectors, but found them to be too expensive and time-consuming to use every day. One thing they decided not to do, arm their teachers.
We talked about that almost immediately after the incident occurred, and that was something that our board talked about, our staff talked about, and at the end of the day, we just did not feel comfortable with having a teacher armed.
But the district did add a school resource officer in the fall of 2017. He is a deputy sheriff for Champaign County and works during the school day.
It is at least a much faster response than what we would get if we did not have them here. And in a rural environment like ours, in a county school district, where a deputy could be 10 or 15 minutes away, it's very helpful to have a school resource officer in the building.
And that was 10 TV's Olivia Eugenio reporting. You know, after the shooting in Texas, Columbus City School Superintendent Talisa Dixon had a message for parents and the community here. She included some of the safety measures the district is working on, including hiring 35 more safety and security staffers for the next school year, updating the visitor check-in system, and screening guests with metal detector wands when they enter extracurricular events. You can count on 10 TV to keep you updated on any developments out of Uvalde, Texas. Look for continuing coverage at 10tv.com. Well, this week tensions were high at the State House. Lawmakers are hearing testimony on two high-profile bills. But in one hearing, two lawmakers went head-to-head, and 10 TV's Brittany Bailey was there as things unfolded.
These two bills have certainly stirred up controversy. One focuses on gender-affirming care. The other focuses on abortion.
Gender-affirming care and solid support is vital to us. It's vital to our youth.
Outside, opponents of House Bill 454 wanted their voices heard. The bill would ban gender-affirming care for minors. Inside, lawmakers were hearing from those who support the bill.
When the euphoria of the drugs and endorphins from surgery subside, they are still the same person on the inside with the same problems, only they are a shell of themselves, having cut off body parts in a desperate search to cut out the emotional turmoil they are experiencing.
During that hearing, things suddenly got heated between two lawmakers.
I'm very disappointed in some of my colleagues here. Why? I'll tell you why.
Please address through the chair. This is not the time or the place for direct confrontation between members. Everything needs to be addressed through the chair. Representative Click.
Madam Chair, point of order. I have not made any comments about any other members of this committee, not once, and it keeps happening, Madam Chair.
Spoke when you were asking
Representatives, the committee will stand at ease.
But we captured what happened after the feed dropped.
Guys, we are standing at ease. Take a walk. Take a break.
Enough, Jay. You're only Jay Edwards.
House Rep Monique Smith vented her frustrations with Rep Jay Edwards. Down the hall, another set of lawmakers was hearing testimony from opponents of House Bill 598, the so-called trigger ban on abortion in Ohio.
Let these people who can become pregnant instead live in self-determination. And let us together cultivate a society in which children come into the world under the very best of circumstances. Each child a beloved and wanted child.
And we had a brief moment to question the bill's sponsor.
It is a necessary bill, and we'll talk later about it, but right now I got to go back in committee.
We will still keep tracking both House Bill 454 and 598 and bring you any updates. Reporting from the State House, Brittany Bailey, 10 TV News.
A reminder, the hearing on House Bill 598 was only for opponent testimony, and then the hearing for House Bill 454 was for proponent testimony. We'll certainly keep following both to bring you both sides. The Ohio Supreme Court once again struck down the recent map submitted by the Ohio Redistricting Commission. The court had already struck down these same maps once before. It gave the commission a June 3rd deadline, but a federal court will likely order the state to use this set of maps for an August 2nd primary. That means the Ohio Supreme Court's decision could affect what happens in the years to come. This week, several lawmakers in our state talked about the growing fentanyl issue here. It happened in downtown Columbus. Attorney General Dave Yost was there, along with House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy and Representative Troy Balderson, who represents the 12th District. The group says border security is behind the rise in fentanyl overdoses in the United States.
The bottom line is we know that the drugs are coming across the border. It's not the only place, but it is the easiest place.
We did reach out to Ohio Democrats for a response to this Republican event. They told us, quote, "It's a shame Republicans have chosen to politicize this issue rather than working with Democrats to solve it." A statement from the Ohio Democrats. All right, having a new baby, boy, is it a stressful time for any family. Up next, we take a look at a plan by Ohio Democrats they say will make it easier for expecting and new mothers. Plus, the newest initiative from Columbus City leaders and how it could impact your child's education. Welcome back. Nestle is teaming up with the federal government to help ease the baby formula shortage. The U.S. Air Force flew in another shipment of formula from Germany into Washington Dulles International Airport this week. The formula was transported to Nestle's facility outside of Allentown, Pennsylvania. This shipment will be delivered to hospitals, WIC families, and retailers across the country in an effort to fix that formula shortage. Now, here in Ohio, there is a bill to make breast milk more affordable. Right now, families can get a prescription for breast milk and then pick it up from one of Central Ohio's milk banks, but it's not free. Senate Bill 314 aims to have insurance companies cover the cost of medically necessary breast milk.
For newborns, essentially, their first 2 weeks of life, they take in about an ounce or two each serving. And mind you, they're getting served every 2 to 3 hours. So if you're a low-income family, that can really add up, and lower-income families could really struggle to cover those costs.
And that piece of legislation is part of a series of bills the Ohio Democrats are pushing to help growing families, they say, including eliminating the diaper tax, creating an infant formula tax credit, and the Ohio Pregnant Workers Fairness Act.
So as someone who just gave birth 12 days ago, I understand firsthand how it feels to go ahead and birth during a pandemic, to give birth as a state senator, to give birth as a working parent. It's not easy. It was very difficult for me as being a woman of color. I was also subjected to preeclampsia, gestational diabetes, and all the things that impact us women of color and maternal mortality. So, excuse me. Another thing too, with giving birth, not only just recently 12 days ago, but 10 years ago, are a lot of needs that working families have. Also, in addition to pregnant workers, Senate Bill 177 is one of those important supports for our new mothers and mothers-to-be, which will also strengthen pregnancy accommodation and anti-discrimination standards here in Ohio, which is also going to be known as the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act.
Columbus City leaders have officially rolled out a $1 million initiative, and it's all about making sure children know how to read by the end of the third grade. Organizers say in 2019, 7 of 16 Franklin County school districts had third grade reading proficiency rates under 75%. It's why leaders say they're launching this program, which is called Success by Third Grade.
One of the Columbus Board of Education goals is to strengthen reading proficiency. And Success by Third Grade initiative will help us get there. Through an equity lens and a whole child focus, we are working together to remove community-based barriers that hinder academic success. Many kindergarten through third grade students in Columbus City schools and throughout Franklin County are experiencing poverty issues at home and in their communities. Without question, these challenges impact student success. Children who are hungry, have unstable homes, or are dealing with social emotional challenges are frequently off track academically. Much of this is due to limited access to community-based support and services. This is why Success by Third Grade movement is so important.
All of this advances upward mobility, and that is why Opportunity Rising, our plan to equitably promote prosperity and dismantle racism, prioritizes things like kindergarten readiness, youth engagement, workforce development.
And experts say third grade reading levels are a top indicator of a child graduating from high school. Just a few weeks until fair season ahead, we look at how one law is helping keep rides and riders safe. And we have reaction from the mother who helped spearhead the movement. A summer staple is making its return in just a couple of months. The Ohio State Fair will have rides for the first time since 2019. And this year, tougher rules they must follow because of Tyler's Law, which is all about improving the safety and operation of amusement rides. It's named for Tyler Jarrell, who was killed in 2017 in a ride accident at the fair. Producer Angel Brock and I share how his mother led the fight for the law named in her son's memory.
The moment that I was able to pick myself up off the floor.
The moment, life-changing, as Amber Duffield learned her son Tyler was dead. She knew it was a call to action.
The people that are injured are not going to be able to do that. Tyler can't do that. And this is unacceptable.
In 2017, Amber's son Tyler Jarrell was on board the Fireball ride at the Ohio State Fair when it came apart mid-air, killing the 18-year-old and injuring 7 others. Losing her son was a tragic gut punch. Amber says her son, in his own way, had prepared her.
You left me behind to make sure that this was not in vain, that your sacrifice is going to do as much as possible to keep this from happening again.
Ohio Department of Agriculture investigators combed the scene and determined the steel support beam on the Fireball had excessive corrosion. Tyler's Law is aimed at ensuring an accident like that doesn't happen again.
It doesn't give us more authority, but what it does is it changes the procedure on how fatigue and corrosion is addressed.
Dave Myron is chief of amusement ride safety at the Ohio Department of Agriculture. He says the regulations raise inspection standard levels and overall safety.
My inspectors are looking at the ride as it's been set up to ensure that all the bolts are supposed to be there, that the lap bars are in proper working order, and then there's, with regard to Tyler's Law, that there's no signs of fatigue and corrosion on the ride.
Tyler's Law adopts new American Society for Testing and Materials standards, collects information, creates a paper trail, tracking the storage or use of rides outside of Ohio, and specifies the frequency of inspections and number of inspectors who will perform those inspections. Ride owners must have documentation on hand with them for inspectors. If and when corrosion is discovered, the owner must call the ride manufacturer to fix it.
Some of them are tremendously complex and have huge electrical components. They have G-forces and stress tolerance levels that are checked and verified by the inspectors.
None of it will bring back Amber Duffield's son, but she says the rules are a reminder of what's at stake.
This is to keep him alive and to keep what all that was for. And remind people. And remind them.
10 TV producer Angel Brock asked Amber about what her son would think.
Like, what do you think he's saying to you now?
Well, I think he would say good job to everyone that worked on that, because it was not just me. You have to realize there were a lot of very dedicated people to making sure that we were going forward as best as we could to ensure that this didn't happen again.
And you can hear more of our sit-down interview with Tyler's mom at 10tv.com. Well, we certainly thank you for joining us here today and wish you a beautiful week.